Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngome. We are in $1 Million March still, and today we're talking about creating your $1 Million growth plan. If you have not caught up on our other $1 Million March trainings, you can see them inside of the She's Making an Impact Facebook group, or if you want to listen to them on the She's Making an Impact podcast. So far, oh my goodness, we've already talked about what it requires to hit $1 million, reverse engineering your $1 million a year, the team it requires to hit $1 million, the absolute best investments it's going to take to hit $1 million, creating your $1 million mindset. I think that one was my favorite. So definitely go back and listen to that one. And today we're talking about creating your $1 million growth plan. So I love this topic, and I have worked a lot with John Maxwell, studied, read a ton of his books since I started network marketing. And one of the things that he talked about is how you have to be intentional about growing. Either you're growing or you're dying. And so he talked about one of his first mentors asked him, "Do you have a growth plan?" And John was like, what's that? What's a growth plan? And so that's where he learned about creating a growth plan for yourself and being intentional about growing. So a really good book, if you want a book recommendation, which our next live tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be talking about the $1 Million books to read. But I'll give you one today, is Intentional Living or Intentional Growth. John, he has so many. I'll give you two. Intentional Living and then 21 Irrefutable Laws of Growth. Those are two really good ones. So he talks about creating a growth plan of actually being intentional about growing. Because if you just go through life going from day to day to day without any kind of a roadmap, goals, a plan, you just kind of coast. And before you know it, you look back and you're like, did I really do anything meaningful? Did I really contribute to this world? Did I make the impact I set out to make? So it's really easy just to get kind of in a rut if you're not intentional about growing. So let me give you an example here. So I'm obviously super big into health and fitness, being, I played volleyball for 10 years, then I was a Beachbody coach for a long time. So I love health and fitness, and I've definitely made mistakes as I've grown in that area. Cause I remember I did P90X and I was like, yeah, P90X. And I got super fit. I was in such good shape. I was so strong. And after I finished P90X, I didn't have a what's next. And so what ended up happening, I kind of didn't have a plan. So then you start eating a little bit junkier. You're not working out with the same intensity because you don't have a plan to actually follow. Right. So I wasn't fit for that long after that. So that taught me you have to be really intentional about what's my next step? Where am I going? What do I want to create? So it's really important that you have a vision. So what's your vision for the next year? Where do you want to be a year from now? What does that look like specifically? What does your business look like? And then reverse engineer it and ask yourself, okay, if I want to be here in a year, if I want to have $1 million business within a year, which sounds crazy, depending on where you at, mindset wise, personal development wise, and in your business, it could be possible. Just know, it could be possible. People have done it before, right? It's not so insane. But looking at where you want to be a year from now, reverse engineer it and ask yourself, okay, if this is where I want to be a year from now, what needs to happen in the next 90 days? And so setting up a 90-day growth plan of looking, if you look at okay, I want to create $1 million business over the next year, even if you want to do a six-figure, multiple six-figure, whatever that looks like, whatever that is realistic and stretchy goal for you, look at it. If you set only yearly goals, it's really easy to completely forget about it, get lost on the way, or be like, that's too far stretched, or whatever that looks like for you. If you set 90-day goals, then your butt's kind of in the fire and you're like, I only have 90 days to make this happen, and get really intentional about what that 90-day growth plan is. What's that book that I read? The 90-Day Year, I believe is what it's called. Who is the author? I've read a lot of books over the years. Don't remember the author. Sorry. I'm sure I'll think of it. But the 90-day year, it's essentially creating you can create so much growth in 90 days if you are intentional about it. So look at, what are my 90-day goals? What do I want to create? What are Like, what is it going to require of me? What are maybe the skill sets that I need to develop in the next 90 days? And so I knew like a gap that we had in our business was on back end sales. I'm like, I'm so good at marketing. Like, yeah, I can do marketing all day long. But when it came to back end sales, we didn't have the team to support the leads that we were generating. And we're still working on it. But when I was really intentional and I invested in a 90-day program that was going to teach me how to really set up and create back end sales, I created a specific growth plan for myself. You see? What happened with that specific investment in that growth plan? Our business exploded. Like, it really took off because I identified this is where we want to go. This is the gap that I have. So look at what are the gaps that you have right now in your strategy? What are the gaps that you have in your business? What are some of the skills that you're going to need to learn? So I needed to, like, I was pretty good at sales, but I needed to learn sales management, sales team, the structure around sales, right? I need to learn the systems. Like, we didn't have any, like, we didn't have any spreadsheets. We didn't use any, like, we use Close Now. We didn't use any like CRM for our sales team, nothing. So I need to learn like pipeline. I need to learn all of those things. And then I needed to learn how to effectively lead my team and help them succeed. Okay. So ask yourself, where do I want to be 90 days from now? Things can happen quickly. A lot can happen in 90 days if you are intentional about growing in those 90 days. If you don't create this growth plan, you're like, we'll just kind of see what happens, then you can coast through 90 days from now and be exactly where you are right now, which if you're here, you want growth. Like, you want things to be different. You want to be better. So write down, what's your vision? What's your goal? Where do you want to be 90 days from now? What are the gaps that you have in your current strategy? What are the skills that you need to learn? What are the investments that you're going to need to make to learn those skills? What is it going to require of you mentally, emotionally? What are some of the books that you're going to have to read? And then reverse engineering it even further and looking at, what does your day-to-day need to look like? It's like the $1 million year, it happens in the day. It's not just like a year passes by and you're like, woohoo, I did it. No, it's every day, one day after the other. It's the compound effect. It's the like seemingly insignificant things that you either do or you don't do that add up to massive shifts and massive results a year from now. So you make the choice today of, I'm going to get better. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to take action. Because you can learn a lot of things without actually implementing. So if you get in the habit of taking massive, determined action every day, something that's going to move the needle in your business, on top of learning and growing, man, like, imagine where you're going to be 90 days from now. Imagine where you're going to be a year from now. But it really comes down to you being very intentional with your growth, creating an intentional growth plan, understanding what are your gaps, where do you need to invest in order to fill those gaps, how do you need to grow. Okay, so knowing all of this, let me ask you, what needs to shift? What do you need to do specifically? What do you need to do specifically? What's the thing 90 days from now? If you're like, if I could master this one thing, it could be making offers. It could be high ticket sales. It could be email marketing. It could be launching a podcast. I don't know what your thing is, but you need to figure out, what's my area of focus? Where's my area of growth? And if you need support, I'm actually going to be teaching high ticket sales at our Activate retreat that is coming up on the 23rd of March. And I'm gifting tickets to our audience to attend. It's literally a $1997 value that I'm going to give you for free. So if you want, you'll get coaching from me. We're going to be talking about high ticket sales. We're going to be talking about creating a legacy brand. So it's basically like spending a half day with me with our Activate students, with our Activate coaches. So if you want to apply for that, just go to rachelandgome.com/join retreat. And then you can fill out an application and get some coaching so we can help you be really intentional with your growth plan. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And then I'll be on again tomorrow talking about the $1 million books to read to help you and support you in creating that growth plan. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.